Hey everyone, it's Technic Builder. I'm finally going to make that video of modifying an XL motor. This is a brand new motor. You can always tell if they're brand new just by sticking an axle in and spinning it and seeing how hard it is to spin. It's an issue that a lot of you probably don't have because you're not modifying your motors, but it's an issue that I'm starting to have because this is motor number 12. So the hardest part in modifying these is getting the case off. I've damaged a number of cases trying to pull these motors apart. Somebody out on the internet, again I don't remember who, says that they have a method for disassembling these cases without damaging them, but you know, I haven't been able to do it without leaving a mark. Okay, so I've got a micro screwdriver, not the smallest size that I have, because that one, it's just too small, it's too sharp, it'll dig into the pieces too much. It's one step up, or two steps up from that. And I'm basically going to dig this in. I'm going to squeeze the sides of the motor. I've tried to squeeze this using my vices over here, but hand just seems to work better. So as I'm squeezing the sides, I'm going to dig this in. And I just want to get it under there just enough, and then I push down and push away so I can release one side, okay? So the plastic started to get a little bent, a little white, but you know, that's not too bad. The other side's a little more difficult because now you can see it's not sitting flat anymore. This is pinched a lot tighter, so I've got to dig in. It's a little harder now. Okay, as I'm squeezing, there we go, and I'm under it, and I push out, and there we go. That wasn't so bad, okay? So, again, I guess after you've done 12 of these, you should get pretty good at it. If I can find an old motor. Here we go. Yeah, I used to break the tabs off a lot. It really doesn't matter that much, though. I mean, these don't want to come apart. Plus, it's still got pinholes, so when you put it inside a construction, it's usually going to be held together anyway. So, well, that time the entire planetary gear set came out at once. We'll take the cap off, set that aside. Don't forget to put that back in at the end. We'll take out the first stage. And you can see inside there's a lot of grease. To me, I don't know, it kind of seems like a little bit of overkill. I guess they wouldn't have put the grease in there if it didn't serve a purpose. But in my opinion, it just adds friction. So I try to get some of that grease off. I'm taking these extra gears and setting them aside because we won't use those. And then there's the second stage of gear reduction. Now for this motor, I'm going to show you how to take out both stages, which makes a very high-speed motor. Most of you won't do. I've already made one, and I just like to have another because for whatever weird reason, I like to have everything in twos. I should really watch my monitor to make sure what I'm doing is actually on screen. So, to take out one stage, okay, if you just wanted to take out one stage of reduction, here's what you would do. This was the bottom stage, all right, and this was the top stage. Basically, we're going to put these two stages together. I didn't come up with this original technique, it was somebody else. But what you do is use toothpicks, and you put 3 of them in there through these holes, and that holds the stages together. Now, this specific kind of toothpick, well, it looks like this. I think they were called fancy toothpicks. I got these from Walmart. It was $1 for like 150 of them. Very inexpensive, but you don't want a toothpick with a square profile. And again, these are just, they also don't have any other little fancy cuts in them. It's just a symmetrical toothpick pointed on both ends. So then what I do is I take a toothpick and I cut it down into a bunch of little sections. I've already done this because that would be boring if you'd watch me do that. I don't know the exact measurement, but it actually doesn't matter quite as much as you think. And I'll try to get really close and show you why. So I'm going to put 3 of these in. God, I should really make sure you all can see what I'm doing if I'm making an instructional video. It doesn't matter if they're not super stiff because we're going to glue these Now, here's the important part. I think I have to zoom all the way out to get into macro mode. Let's go ahead and put the focus all the way down. And I think you should be able... Okay. It doesn't matter if your sticks are exactly the right size. What matters is that they don't stick out on this side, because those... any protrusion will rub against this white washer. I don't know if I call it a washer, but they'll rub up against that, okay? So we want to make sure that we push these down and that they're not sticking through. Well, once we put glue on all of this, that won't be an issue. Okay, so as far as gluing is concerned, I am using Loctite Super Glue Gel Control. You really want that gel control. This is Ultra Gel Control. I guess there's a lesser gel control, but regular super glue can be very, very runny. So we just need a little bit of glue, and we're just going to apply it to this exposed wood right here. And because right now you could pull this apart very easily. I think what the glue does is it gets into that wood and it makes it expand, and that prevents the let's turn focus all the way down. That prevents this wood from being able to push out from either side. So okay, I gotta watch what I'm doing. I can't watch it on screen, but I'm just gonna apply the smallest amount, just kind of trying to get it all around there. It really doesn't take much. One thing you want to make sure is that glue does not protrude past the edge. Oh God, I just touched it because I'm looking at the screen. You want to make sure that glue doesn't protrude past the edge of these orange discs, because that could rub on the outside just a little bit. Let's get a little bit more glue. Don't ever take the glue and don't ever use the bottle and touch it directly to your toothpick segments. It'll make a huge mess. Just take another toothpick and use that as your applicator. Okay, I've got a big glob of glue, so I'm actually going to skip over and come back to that one. I'm going to put... that's almost too big. When in doubt, just get rid of some glue there. You know what? If this whole thing is out of focus, I'll be very sad. Okay. Oh. Is that the focus point? Really? Come on, let's dial that out. For really close focusing, I can't rely on autofocus. Let's get a little bit more. Again, it really doesn't take much. I've never had one of these come apart, although I haven't, used them for many hours on end under heavy use. But we're not talking about gigantic forces here. We're talking about 5-watt electric motors. So, okay. Now that I've glued that, I'm going to press it down flat. I'm going to push through any protruding wood. From one side, that glue is starting to set. And even if you had a little bit of wood protruding, you could always grind that down with a Dremel if you had to. If wood sticks out from this side, you can get away with a couple millimeters, and it won't rub up against anything, because the furthest protrusion point are these, not these. So, okay, now, if you were just taking out one stage of gear reduction, what you would do is put 3 gears back on, 1, 2, 3. All right. This whole thing popped out. I've got to put it back in. I thought there were 2. Yes, there are 2 protrusions. There it goes. Okay, so you'd put 3 gears back on, put that back on. Don't forget your white thing, your washer, whatever you want to call it. Put that back on, seal it up, and you'd be done. We're going to take out both stages of gear reduction. Okay, so the way that we're going to do that is we've got to grind down some gears. if you look, when you've got 3 gears on here, we want these gears to connect to the spur gear of the motor, but we don't want those gears to touch the ring gear of the outer edge. So what we've got to do is grind these gears down so they don't touch, and then glue these gears onto this plastic ring, press it onto here to make sure everything's lined up, and then let this all dry, because then all of this entire assembly will turn at the speed that the spur gear is turning, thus effectively removing both stages of gears. So I'm going to take my gears and set them there. That's going to continue to dry. I'm going to wipe off my hands a little bit. These have grease on them. I'm going to get some of that grease off, and I'm going to put this in my vise. And I've done this before, so I know about how much material to take off. I think you can see that. I'm going to go ahead and wipe the grease off these other two before I forget. Also, now my cat's at my feet because he is hungry, and I should go feed him. And we're going to make a big mess and get plastic shavings everywhere. But use your Dremel on a low speed because we don't want to melt plastic. Clean up some of the burrs. Alright, let's see how close we are. So all we need to see is that the edge of this does not protrude outside of the orange ring, and it doesn't. In fact, I probably took off a good bit more than I needed, but it really doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anything. I know that's out of focus. Come on, camera. So, you know, that one's ground down plenty enough. I think I'll go ahead and grind down the other two, and maybe this will give me a good excuse to find out how to fast forward in a video. Of course, you can always just skip through and jump to the end, but I'm still going to grind down 2 more in real time. Let's take it. Let's check. Okay. Can you really not focus that closely when it's not in macro mode? Whatever, anyway, that one's good as well. Let's do the last one. Yep. Get that a little more secure. If anybody's actually watching me do all 3, I'll be very surprised. I'm going to grind that a little bit more, and the reason is when I'm in good control of where the teeth are, it fits, but when you put it on that spur gear, sometimes the spur gear moves the teeth a little bit. So I'm going to take a little more off. Okay, I'm sure that is enough. Just